Steve, I mentioned 385 student athletes that we have at Texas Tech. 64 of those young people are first generation college student.
I mean, what does that just give you chills? If that doesn't give you chills, you've been sitting in the chair too long, man. I mean, really.
Yes, it's life changing.
The power of sport in our society, in our culture, would be hard to overestimate. We know names like Patrick Mahomes. We probably know more about their lives than we do about our extended family. But we oftentimes don't know about the things that make it possible for the infrastructure to happen. In this country, that happens at the collegiate level all across the United States. We have one of the superstars of that space with us today. Kirby Hocutt is the director of athletics at Texas Tech University, one of the emerging powers in the new and changing collegiate sports landscape. Kirby, welcome to SmarterUmedia.
Steve, good afternoon. Great introduction, power of sport and how it captivates our society. So I look forward to this discussion.
Yeah, I mean, it captivates a lot. We're going to get you straight to our chicken timer, CT, so dubbed, so that we can let you give us a nugget from all of that time you have spent within sports to make us a little bit wiser about the whole thing. So, Kirby, make me a little bit smarter.
Steve, I want to start with talking about Texas Tech. And Texas Tech is a brand that's on the rise. And the exposure that Texas Tech athletics brings to our great university and to our city and our region is tremendous. And in so many ways, you are judged by your viewership, and in particular in college football. And I think as we embark on what lies ahead in college athletics, and I'm sure we'll get into it, nobody knows, but I will tell you that Texas Tech athletics is a brand that is in demand and is being talked about now more than ever across this entire country. But we just finished one of our best football seasons in history, winning our first Big 12 championship in university history, playing in the college football playoff in the Orange Bowl this year. But the viewership tells a story. Texas Tech, we just finished our most ever watched season in Texas Tech football history with over 3.5 million viewers watching each and every one of our games on average. We led the Big 12 conference. When you look at the total of viewership across the Big 12 conference this year, Texas Tech accounted for 18% of all viewerships and was number one amongst the 16 schools. Texas Tech was featured in four of the five highest watched Big 12 conference football games this season. And the Texas Tech BYU Big 12 conference championship game was in the top 10 of all Big 12 conference watched football games in history dating back to 1996. All of that, Steve, to say Texas Tech is a brand on the rise and people are paying attention.
Which makes the person sitting behind the director of athletics desk very happy.
Indeed, it does.
And, it's really interesting that you start us down a path that is viewership, because people sometimes may think that's the tail wagging the dog, but as somebody who's been in entertainment and the like, I think exactly the opposite. It's the dog. I mean, if you can't make a television show that somebody wants to watch, you're probably not making a great television show. And in the same way, if you create an athletic program that people want to show up for, that means you're doing some of the right thing.
Yeah, and I think, Steve, you've got to have great people, and that's what we have at Texas Tech. That is our strength. That is our special ingredient. It's the people. It's the people who are making this show and this telecast possible. Great friends and donors of the program with the Griffin family, the Alderson family, and so many others. And it's the coaches that we have. It's the athletes that we have, and then it's the passionate fan base that's second to none. And that fan base is growing. Others are seeing the success we're having, and they're wanting to tune in and ask the question, what's going on at Texas Tech?
Well, I do really think that a lot of it has to do with the wonderful vibes that people have at Texas Tech. People, I meet alums who know I'm doing this now in association with Texas Tech, and they are people who had a great experience, great educational experience, went and launched into the world no matter where they go, but they have those warm fuzzies that not every place generates. So there's some magic going on within the Texas Tech world for sure.
Yeah, and I tell our staff and our coaches and our team, college athletics is changing, and what it will look like in 3 to 5 years, we don't know. And you may not have athletes that come to Texas Tech and spend 4 or 5 years at one university like there used to be. And so what I say is, even if an athlete is only on our campus for 1 or 2 years, I want them to have the very best collegiate experience that they will have. So that although Nija Kennedy, our world class softball pitcher, came from Stanford, where she spent 2 years, she'll graduate in 2 years, she'll spend 2 years on our softball team. I want her 2 years at Texas Tech to be more impactful for her as an individual than her 2 years at Stanford were. And so in life, when she reflects on her college years, she will always consider herself a Red Raider. She will know that this is her college home and a program that she will always want to associate with. So college athletics is changing, but what you experience at Texas Tech is only getting better each and every year.
As the Under Armour Athletic Director of the Year in 2018, you've seen a lot. And as you say the world's changing, let's just dive in, because I will tell you it would be hard to be someone paying attention to any news that doesn't know that college sports are changing. Give me a quick synopsis, because a lot of people may not even know what that means.
Yeah, so college athletics has gone through transformational change, some in good ways and some in not so good ways over the past, 5 years. And I think if you really set the table, you go back to COVID. And during the COVID years, athletic departments were trying to survive. We, like everybody else, we were trying to reduce expenses. We were trying to maintain as much revenue as we could and provide the educational and athletic experiences to the degree possible. There were two things happening during COVID as we were in survival mode. There were two topics that were coming through the legislative system that continued to progress. They did not stop, as the rest of the world seemed to in so many ways with COVID. And it was the NIL discussion, and it was the transfer portal discussion. So we get past COVID, and then almost immediately there's new legislation that's brought forward that allows student athletes for the first time to receive compensation for their name, image, and likeness, which was something that was, I'll say this now, was long overdue. The NCAA was trying to protect a topic of amateurism as the world changed, as more money came to intercollegiate athletics. And we did not adapt over decades. The other thing that was coming through the legislative pipe was removing the restriction of student athletes not being able to transfer from school to school. So you get through COVID, you have the introduction of name, image, and likeness, and then you have the transfer rules change, allowing student athletes to move freely from school to school. From that point in time, courts, it seemed like, became more involved than ever. Decisions in college athletics were not being made by athletic directors or commissioners around conference tables. They were being made in courtrooms by judges and powerful plaintiff and influential plaintiff attorneys. And we ended up settling 4 lawsuits together, known as the House case, which led us to this new concept of revenue share in intercollegiate athletics, where we could begin sharing a certain percentage of our revenue with our student athletes. And what that resulted in was this is the first year in college athletics history that we've been able to share $20.5 million of revenue with our student athletes. At the same time, trying to build a new governance model, a new governance organization to oversee this revenue share era, trying to enforce the new rules of the settlement. And it's created still today a lot more questions in college athletics than we have answers for.
That's a very good synopsis because it's complicated. You know it's complicated, and it's not going to get less complicated because that's not the way the world works. But the overdue note is duly noted. Sports takes a role, has taken a role so many times to get over some humps that have been difficult, and that this is another one of those.
Yeah, it is. And, anytime the president of the United States calls a very public roundtable discussion to Washington, D.C., when the president of the United States puts out executive orders related to college athletics, it has reached a point in which there's been considerable change and there's considerable concern about the future of our industry. And, something that is right or wrong is very, very important to our society. And I think it's very important because of the positive influence that it's had on hundreds of thousands of young men and women, much like myself a long time ago, but through the college experience, preparing you for life in whatever chosen field that you want to go into. And I think that's something that unfortunately we've lost in college athletics. We don't talk about the value and the importance of the education today near enough, and what we need to. And the way our student athletes here at Texas Tech are performing in the classroom are just exceptional. We have 17 teams at Texas Tech. We had a cumulative grade point average last semester of 3.5.
Wow, 3.5.
All of our teams had a 3.0 cumulative grade point average or higher. Had 29% of our student athletes with a perfect 4.0 GPA. These young people are very, very talented and are doing great things, not only in competition like we talked about that's causing the country to say what's happening at Texas Tech, but they're performing exceptionally well at record levels in the classroom as well.
Well, this is one of those things that you wear many hats, right? And I think you've been a true thought leader as the second longest serving director of athletics in Texas Tech history, which is quite a milestone, I think. But you've been a thought leader on that front, which is we are here not just to put on sports. We are here to educate young people. When the chancellor was on the show, he talked about the importance of what you do at an institution like Texas Tech. That's greatly appreciated. Do you think this makes it more complicated, or do you think this will give you more resource and ability to do more of the education piece?
That's a really good question, Stephen. I think we are learning through this time. The one thing that I've embraced, and I see colleagues throughout the country that are so resistant to this change, and talking about how we need to go back to the way it was. I believe we've been successful here at Texas Tech in pivoting and adjusting to what's taken place. And to answer your question, I think the degree, the progress towards degree emphasis continues to be paramount in everything that we do. But at the same time, I believe that we have a greater responsibility of education and growth for the young people that we're trusted to care for them during their time here to help them mature. They have more resources, they have more money through revenue share and NIL than they've ever had, and there's a level of education and responsibility that's incumbent upon us to help expose them to and bring forward to them to make the right decision. So I look at it as, yes, going forward, it's not only the classroom education, but more important than ever, it's the life education at a younger age to be prepared to make more responsible decisions than maybe the previous generation of student athletes we had to be concerned about.
And I think the role you've played, you talked a little bit about coaches. You have a reputation of being a little bit of a coach whisperer. And that's a nice reputation to have, by the way. But I think, isn't that what it really is? Like any CEO who's running a business, what you want to do for every department is to have a department head that you trust will have not just the bottom line money stuff in mind, but the core values of what you are. How do you choose a coach?
Yeah, it's I wish there was a formula and that would allow you to hit a grand slam every time. And we've got some great head coaches here, and I'm so fortunate to get to work alongside the head coaches that I do. I think the Red Raider Nation knows right now how fortunate we are to have the leadership of Joey McGuire and Grant McCaslin and Krista Gerlich and Jerry Glasgow and Wes Kitley and Tom Stone and Greg Sands. And I shouldn't have started mentioning Tim Tadlock. We've just got great coaches across the board. And, you know, I haven't been perfect there. I've missed on, you know, identifying the right person to come in at times as well. But right now we're in such a sweet spot with the leadership that we have. And kids today, even though the game's changed with the dollars involved for them personally, they're still 18 to 24-year-old young people. And they know when the leader in front of them is genuine and authentic and has a true love for them. And when that head coach has those characteristics, those young people are going to work hard and do all they can. When it's not authentic, when it's not genuine, there's going to be a divide, there's going to be a rift. Nobody does it better than the coaches we have in place now. We talk a lot about football. Nobody builds a culture. Nobody loves their kids more in college football than Joey McGuire. Our young men, they work hard. They practice hard. A lot is expected of them. But no head coach in this country loves his kids more than Joey McGuire. And I could say the same thing about the other sports that we have. But that's special for us to have right now at Texas Tech, and it has led to so much of our success and the excitement that's around our brand right now.
And you cannot ignore the gravitational pull of football, particularly when you're in Texas. I think you'd probably be kicked out of the state if you tried to ignore that in the state of Texas. But you know what that does for institutions historically is something that you have to understand, because it makes in a way, it makes the other 16 programs that you have really be able to flourish. How do you juggle that? Because you last year won in 2024, you won the track and field men's national championship. That's incredible. But you're able to do that because the resources that come into the larger programs. How do you do that? How do you balance that, athletic director guy?
Yeah, I think there's two things that come to mind. And number one, we try to be as transparent with all of our coaches as you can possibly be. And our head coaches know the importance of football. They know the importance of revenue that is generated by football. They know the more successful football is, the better it's going to be for their teams and their programs. And you know, we've seen that rising tide lifts all boats right now with Texas Tech football and the revenue that it's generating that's allowing us to invest into our other teams and our other programs. That being said, Steve, I think you do it by being transparent and direct conversations with your head coaches. You can't always say yes, but you want to explain why you can't say yes in some certain situations. The other critical component of this for us, and you talked about the university, is the alignment that we enjoy at Texas Tech. And it's from the Board of Regents to the Chancellor to President Skuvanek, who's my direct boss. He's the best. I tell our head coaches all the time, we're so fortunate that we have a university president, a boss like President Skuvanek, as well as the Chancellor, as well as the Board of Regents, who understand the role that intercollegiate athletics play for an institution of higher education and the importance of continuing to invest into Texas Tech athletics. So I think the alignment piece is critical, and I think the internal communication and relationships with our head coaches, that they know how important the sport of football is here at Texas Tech. Those two things all go into the formula, right, that position us where we are today.
Yeah. And, what the run you just went on is, I'm sure, just an adrenaline rush, right? I mean, you can plan, you can do all of the things, you can sit with the X's and O's in your office as long as you want, but not everybody gets to jump on that wave. Not everybody does.
No, and it takes everybody pulling in the same direction. And you go back a couple of years ago, we had a small group come in, and the chairman of our Board of Regents right now, Cody Campbell, was in the meeting, and we put together the game plan of opportunity amid chaos. There was so much chaos, and there still is within intercollegiate athletics. We saw an opportunity to elevate our brand, elevate our profile. At that meeting, Cody said, resources are not going to be the reason why we do not elevate. We will identify the individuals to provide the investment. Let's do this. And, that Saturday morning in Arlington, Texas, when we raised that Big 12 Conference Championship trophy, it was special. It was proof that the plan we put in place was working. And the exciting thing about it, Steve, is we're still just getting started, and the future is even brighter for Texas Tech.
Yeah, 100%. It also is a real interesting study in changes in marketplace. The guy who was head of one of the two largest talent agencies in the world was just on the show, and his 2 minutes was, "I like to zig when they zag." And that's a very quick way to say what I think you just did, which is you can sit and wish it were yesterday, but it's not yesterday. And you can see the future clearly? No, because none of us can. No crystal balls. But what you can do is you can make a plan and be willing to adjust it. And that's really amazing when it works out.
Yeah, I like that. We zig when they zag, right? And, I tell our team that we used to. 10 years ago, we would sit down and we'd say, okay, well, let's map out the strategic plan for the next 3 to 5 years for Texas Tech athletics. A couple of years ago, I said, we can't see 3 to 5 years out. Let's look 18 months. What do we want to prioritize and hold ourselves accountable and set as metrics in 18 months? We can't do that today. Things are changing so fast. Again, there's more questions related to the oversight, the rules, the engagement of intercollegiate athletics. It is really looking to take advantage of this window in front of us. What is the window? 6 months? It may be even shorter than that, to be honest with you right now, on all the evolving and the moving pieces in college athletics.
I think you just articulated what every business, what every individual, what every graduating senior is thinking as well. I mean, our world is accelerating at a pace, as we know, because of technology and AI that we don't even comprehend. And so everyone doing what you're doing in a smart way has an opportunity to leverage that into something for them, not against them. But it's a great lesson. I mean, the Texas Tech football and sports programs, but football lesson from the last season is a real good education in not being passive, not sitting back and feeling defeated, but stepping up and being proactive, because no guarantees, but that's an opportunity.
Yeah, it is, and it only works if you have the right individual and leader, right? And for us,
100%.
that's Joey McGuire, and what the the excitement, the optimism, the pride, that the confidence that he has brought to not only Texas Tech football, not only to Texas Tech athletics, not only to Lubbock, Texas, not only to West Texas, but to the Red Raider Nation, um, cannot be underscored. Just what that man brought to our university, and what we so desperately were in need of, and what he's done. I mean, it takes special people to capitalize on opportunity, and we've been so fortunate through the investment of an elite group of donors, the entire Red Raider fan base that has done what they can do to invest into our program, to the leadership, to Joey McGuire. So it's been a special time. And then I'd be remiss if I did not say some very, very talented young men who buy into the system and are willing
100%.
to work as hard as they can and put their bodies on the line to raise trophies and to bring attention to this university.
And power of sport, let's talk about the power of the marketplace. I mean, and the power of regulation, right? I mean, this is one of those things. We had a conversation with the person who was head of sports at Meta. And one of the things he talked about when he came from Europe, came over and spent time here, one of the things he marveled at and feels like the entire world got from the United States was what was really a result of Title IX. It was an effort that was legislated to actually make it so women had positive sports experiences in their life. That was painful for some. It may have, had quite a transition time, but I think when we look at the way the marketplace was, you said it was overdue. I would agree it's completely overdue, that there be a different power structure within collegiate sports when it comes to athletes and institutions and the NCAA. That's happening. But that's really because the market keeps driving, it keeps pushing, and now you get here. That should be a testament to the fact that we can have a chance to make things work better, I hope.
Yeah, I do too. And, I say it was overdue. We went from here to here incredibly fast. I wish we could have, stopped in the middle for just a little while. But,
Sorry, Kirby, that's not the way it works, man.
no, it's not.
That's a really nice wish. It's we could just slowly do things. When they happen, man, it happens, right?
You've got to progress. You've got to grow. And we did not do that in intercollegiate athletics from, the 70s to 2021. So, with that being said, college athletics does so much, and you mentioned the role that it plays in the development of young people, in women. The growth of women's sport is incredible.
Yeah.
Right here at Texas Tech, you look at what softball has accomplished. The number of Red Raiders come up to me and talk to me about how they've been introduced to the sport of softball because of what our team has done the last 2 years. It's incredible. They're paying attention. They're watching our games. What we have on this campus right now, we have a team that right now is ranked number one in the country. They're elite athletes. But I mentioned her earlier, we have got a world-class, once-in-a-generation young lady in Nija Kennedy here that we are so fortunate to have. And she's such a great person, Steve. I wish everybody could see how she interacts and this team interacts with little girls that look up to them and just want an autograph. It's exciting to think about where, female and women's sports can grow to. It comes back to one thing, though: the revenue that is generated at the college level through the sport of football. You would not run a business the way we run an intercollegiate athletics program. And, much of the stress in the system right now is our costs, as in so many businesses, continue to increase at a level that revenue generation is not. But that's puts more emphasis on the sport of football, which is the economic driver between 80 and 85% of the revenue that we generate to fund every opportunity that we can afford here.
Which is why you balance, right? That's why it's the thing in life. Come on, let's take 2 steps back. Stop thinking sports, stop thinking anything, and realize that everything in life is a balance. How do you balance your job with your home life? How do you balance everything that comes to you every day? And that's the thing. And that's why I don't underestimate people. And I'll give you an example. Great example is the NBA. Look, the WNBA has lost money forever. On the other hand, specifically Adam Silver, when he was deputy commissioner, and now that he's commissioner, is going to continue to be behind that and will never get the credit for it. They're not going to get the credit that they deserve for what's happening in women's basketball over the world, as they should, but nobody ever does. Did it for the right reason. So it's people. And I did say regulation, and I'm going to say it again. It's actually thoughtful folks who are looking at the things that can be addressed better, doing things that make it painful for athletic directors, perhaps. But at the same time, just sort of saying, we got to do something, man. We just got to do something to make it different. And those things add up to a turmoil moment, maybe opportunity, but it also adds up to us finding a better place so that more women and men can really have sports take the place that it can to better their lives.
100%. And, I think that in leadership positions or the athletic director chair that I'm fortunate to be able to sit in each and every day, it leads you back to, you better understand your sense of mission when you're sitting in this chair. You better understand your organization's purpose. And we cannot lose sight of the educational benefits that are provided. And then in such a time where there is so much noise and turbulence in the system, you've got to stay focused on those vital priorities, right? You cannot let yourself deviate. So it is life-changing opportunities that we have a chance to come and influence each and every day for 385 athletes that we serve at Texas Tech each and every day, to keep that sense of educational mission, wanting to compete at the highest level, and staying focused on all those vital priorities that allow us to accomplish that mission is just critical, and something that I continually remind myself about each and every day.
And some of the facts and figures that very few of us have any idea are what impact sport at the collegiate level has on making it possible for people to have an education. The number of scholarships, you correct me if I'm wrong, but the second largest source of funding for education in the United States of America is collegiate sports, only behind the federal government. Double what California, the largest population and state, puts in. Double that comes from sports programs. So just to understand, first generation, second generation, every generation, there are people who are making it possible to get an education in order for our world to be better and for them to be better.
Yeah. Steve, I mentioned 385 student athletes that we have at Texas Tech. 64 of those young people are first generation college student.
I mean, what does that just give you chills? If that doesn't give you chills, you've been sitting in the chair too long, man. I mean, really?
Yes, it's life changing. And
Yeah.
when you have an opportunity to get to interact with some of the families of these young people, it brings it full circle, right? One of my favorite things to do as an athletics director, for how many years I've sat in this chair, in my career now, it's over 20 years as an athletics director. The thing that I get so much satisfaction on is just watching these young people succeed, right? Being able to stand in the corner of a locker room after a big win and watch them celebrate their success, because I do see how demanding it is and what is thrust upon them every day, from the academic load and expectations that we have, to the practice preparation to be successful competitively, to balancing their social life. And it's a pivotal time in the life of a young person, and to watch them have success. We've had a lot of success here lately. It's very rewarding.
And you may not make it to the big league, right? You may not be Patrick Mahomes. That may not happen for you. But if you get an education, you have a chance at the rest of your life to take all of those lessons you learned from sport and from your professors and from the rich community at Texas Tech University into an entirely different life than you could have had.
Yeah, it is. It's life changing, and there's so many stories about student athletes moving on and then reflecting upon their role during their time as a student athlete. And you mentioned Patrick Mahomes, and what a loyal ambassador and I would say partner that he is for Texas Tech athletics. And there's nobody more invested in what we're doing than Patrick. He when JT Toppin went down with an injury this year at Arizona State in a basketball game, the first text I got was Patrick wanted to know how he was, wanting JT's number because he's going through rehabilitation of the same injury. And when you see the engagement of Patrick and what he's done through his brand with Adidas, bringing that partnership to Texas Tech, Ludwig Aberg, and what he continues to do to show his pride in Texas Tech University. It's just, we have great kids here. We have special young people, and that's a testament to the coaches, to the university, and to the community. Time and time again, when you ask a young person why they chose Texas Tech, they say it just felt like home, and that's what we want it to be.
Yeah, boy, that's as good as it gets, right? That makes you feel pretty good. You can sit back in the chair for a minute now and just kind of take a moment of silence.
I don't know. It's always what's next.
It is. It is. It is always what's next. We've talked about coaches and we've talked about athletes and the like. The professors and the people who dedicate all of their time to enriching minds continues to be something I'm a huge believer in. You hear it in my voice. I mean, I just think you will never have another time in your life, if you can find a way to be at an institution like Texas Tech for 4 years, where you really get a chance to better yourself for whatever comes next. But we live in a time when people ask questions like, how is that relevant? How does that continue to be relevant? You've been a thought leader, using that word again. You've really been a thought leader in helping athletes get tutoring, in working with them so that they have to juggle the academic and the sports schedule. How do they do that? Tell me about the programs you've been a part of and about ways we might be able in our own lives to use those tools to better organize.
I would just say that as a student athlete at Texas Tech, we're going to provide you with every resource to be successful in the classroom, to progress towards your degree, and to leave with a degree. And what I try to share with our staff and with our athletes when I have an opportunity is it's okay to ask for help. We all need help, and people want to help others. Ask for assistance, and that assistance will be there. So, we have a very detailed academic learning center, the Marcia Sharp Academic Learning Center, where we have academic advisors, we have learning specialists, we have tutors in any course that you could want. So we are there to help facilitate learning and education. And when you have a struggle, when you need that extra assistance, if you ask for it, it's going to be there. So I tell my kids, I tell every young person I have a chance to ask for help. People want to help people. I would not be where I am today without the help of others. And I think it's a sign of strength when you can raise your hand and say, I'm struggling. I need help in this particular course. I need guidance to get to there. So I don't know if it's a secret, Steve, if there's a special ingredient. It's just providing the resources that we can provide because of the generosity of our supporters that we have. And, we make sure our student athletes know what's available to them.
That's a great answer, though. I mean, how often in life, and it doesn't end after you've been in college or after you're 18 or after you're 20, it doesn't end that you're not willing to raise your hand and say, man, I could really use some assistance here. And what company wouldn't work better? What program wouldn't function better if the openness were there and you had resources you could get to? So that's, I think, just a fantastic answer. Now to get some, the sexy stuff. So people, I bet you every time you are in an interview ever, somebody talks about the National Selection Committee. So when the National College Football Playoff Selection Committee, it's a long word, but when you were in and a part of that, you got to see just the inner struggle of making a decision that nobody's going to like, or that's not true, that most people are going to give you grief for, right?
Yeah, it was serving on the college football playoff committee was a great professional experience. I got to be exposed and work alongside some of the best in the game: Tom Osborne, Frank Beamer, Condoleezza Rice, just so many great coaches, and to be able to give back in that way was special. Serving as the chairman of the college football playoff for 2 years was interesting. It was an honor, but it was challenging as well because every Tuesday night they thrust you on ESPN to answer the questions, and it's not, you don't know what they're going to ask, and you're not speaking from your perspective. You're trying to represent the voice of 11 or 12 other people. And I'll never forget the first after the first ESPN show, I come home late that night. The next morning, my oldest son was in uh, middle school at that time. So I take him to school that next morning, and we're driving to school, and he said, Dad, everybody at school hates you. And I said, Drew, why do you say that? He said, Dad, how could y'all rate Texas A&M fourth? And it's funny, you're representing a body, a group of 12, but you're the spokesperson. So all of the criticism comes at the chairperson. So, I've got pretty thick skin these days, and a lot of things have contributed to that. But it was an honor, and it was a lot of fun, and I have great respect for those individuals that continue to fulfill those service leadership opportunities to do what they do.
To dig as deep as I can possibly dig, sport and society are fascinating to me. And I can't help it because I was educated as a philosophy major. So people have to deal with that part of me all the time. But it's very interesting all the way back to Athens and the Olympics and the sort of cultural role that those things play. And, we've seen Jackie Robinson, Bill Russell. We've seen our entire perspective of who we are change because of the power of sport. And now it's everywhere thanks to media. You can't not see it every day all the time if you want. That puts all of us in the place as we're sitting on a social media podcast. How do we sort of juggle where that technology fits into a healthy society for us, for our kids, for the kids that are in your programs, the 385, which by the way, you need to add one more just so you have one for every day. And so for all of those people, how do we juggle the technology and where it is in our lives, and how do you counsel your kids and the people in your program?
Yeah, sport and society, and you sharing the comments you just did make me think of college sports. And the NCAA was formed by Teddy Roosevelt back in the early 1900s because of the sport of football had become so dangerous. There were so many deaths taking place in the sport of football. He brought presidents and leadership from around the country together and said, we have got to make sport football safer, or I'm going to discontinue it. Where you thrust yourself into today, and you see President Trump in a very similar way having and needing to insert himself and Congress into the sport of discussion. Is such an um, interesting topic on society and sports, and the intersection of such. Technology is changing. I tell our team here, we've got to be visible. We've got to be present on all the technology avenues that are out there. We can't just focus on one platform, because the way I consume social media content is different than you. We've got to be visible on all of them. I don't know if we know. Just a couple of years ago, we were concerned about digital and streaming. Would we be able to get that in our living rooms? Would our fan base adapt to ESPN Plus? Would we know how to stream on Amazon Prime? And it seems like today that's common, right? I mean, I know in my house um, we are a YouTube TV user now, so we are streaming all of the sport content that we get, not from your traditional cable
Wild,
subscription.
right?
So it
Yeah.
changes. We watch more content, consume more content off these little things than ever before, right? So what? How's it going to change it? It's exciting, and I mean, we are distributing tickets now. Benefits for our donors are all delivered through their iPhones or Androids or whatever we carry. So it's it's going. There are a lot of people, a lot of smarter than me in every area, but especially technology. And it's fascinating to watch how it's going to continue to cross society, sports, entertainment, music, and how this all will fit together.
And how much of it we want. I mean, is there a saturation point? I don't know. I mean, I just keep thinking, really, are we going to be able to pack more things into whatever this little time space is? And it just keeps growing, but I think we'll have to see.
Yeah.
Um, Crazy topic coming. Just get ready, sit back, get ready. Sports betting. We live in that time. And I'll give full disclosure as the World Poker Tour creator who was in the gaming space and legitimized poker into a global phenomenon. I helped the NBA sort of reassess over a year of consulting what they thought about sports betting, and specifically suggesting that it is better to guard the integrity of the game if you're doing it through regulated markets, because you can do things like tell when something is going awry and nefarious people are doing things, and you can also protect people from themselves if they're in that subset that need to. Well, in the collegiate world, with a son who's about to graduate from college, I know that that's just a big topic. What does that settle in as far as you and your programs and the like, sports betting and collegiate athletics?
Yeah, we talk considerable time and energy towards sports betting. It's a topic, obviously, that is real in the world that we operate and on college campuses. And Um, protecting the integrity of the game and of competition is paramount, and trying to do all we can to protect the individuals and young people that play our game is paramount. If our fans could see everything that is sent to our athletes after games, after hard losses, it would make you sick. No young person should have to receive the some of the things that come to them after certain situations. So we regulate, we monitor sports betting very closely within our department, within our conference, within the NCAA. If you're a student athlete, if you're an employee at Texas Tech, we are monitoring your phones. We are alerted at anytime you try to wager on your phone on a sport that the NCAA offers a championship event in. It alerts us immediately.
Really?
It does. And so, um, it's a growing topic. We've got to continue to monitor protections of the integrity at the game. At the same time, um, it was taboo 8 years ago to host a college athletic event or meeting in Las Vegas.
Yes.
We are going to Las Vegas all the time now for national meetings. It's not announced yet, but we are talking about some neutral site competitions in Las Vegas. Our basketball team's participating in a tournament next year in Las Vegas. So it's in front of us every day. And so I don't know if I can fully answer your question, except it's a real topic, and it's something that we talk about on a regular basis, and we try to monitor and protect our athletes the best we can.
Well, that's the idea. And what is a little shocking to me, and this is part of the dialogue, so it began between myself and the commissioner when the NBA came out against the New Jersey lawsuit that said, hey, you can't let those two states do this and we can't do it. And constitutionally, no question, that's right. But it's a little bit surprising, like Casablanca, if you remember the moment when he comes in and goes, there's gambling in this establishment. At the time I wrote a white paper for the NBA, essentially there was at least $600 billion being wagered in the United States illegally on sports. And the notion that somehow, if we don't look at it, it's not there. I think there will be time for this to sort itself out, but I'm going to say it would be really hard for me to believe, again, that you're better off with criminals and unregulated international sites controlling that market versus having a regulated market where we can really make rules and protect people the best we can.
I would agree with that 100%.
All right. Well, we've talked a long time. I may just keep you here. Do you have anything else? Got anything else today? Come on, Kirby. We're having fun. We're talking sports and college sports and good lives for kids. This is good. We always ask our guests, and first of all, so thrilled that you could come and join us, but we always ask you to help make us better in an information age at curating our information. So whether it's in the world of sports or just in your life, is there some resource or something that you have come across that you use that would be really helpful for me to add to my list?
Well, there's so much inaccurate information out there today, right? And so
that's why we're trying to curate better, right?
I'm always careful for what I consume, and I have found probably one of the more reliable resources for sport information, the business of sport information, is the SBJ, the Sports Business Journal. I think they do a good job of reporting factually, being objective, and presenting all sides of the issue. There's so many channels that try to be the first to break information, and a lot of times don't have complete information. But I'm a consumer of the Sports Business Journal, from morning podcast to their electronic version. I usually have the latest issue of their magazines on my desk here. So the SBJ is who I would say I have found to be the most reliable, factual information in the sport of business during such an interesting time for college sport.
There's a lot coming out, a lot to know. I'm going to break all the rules. I'm going to ask you one more question, which this comes through the Alderson Griffin Center for Family Business and Entrepreneurship. So at its core, as an entrepreneur myself, this is about people being entrepreneurs or intrapreneurs like you, growing within a brand. But I think sport is one of those almost unparalleled spaces where people can grow their own small business, where they can go and build something that they either can't find or that they can't find it as well as they want. Any stories that come to your mind from Texas Tech students or people that you've been around who in the space have gone and thought, oh, I have this idea, I'm going to make this thing, that would be an interesting story to hear?
Well, very good question, very thought-provoking question. I think of the things that we've already talked about. Something does not come to my mind immediately, but I think we talk a lot about technology and how we've got to make things more convenient for our users, for our season ticket holders, for our customers. Um, the conversation that we've had in the last couple of weeks is through our ticketing platform. If I have season tickets and I can't come to the game, we need an application through our technology to make it as easy as possible via text message for me to send my tickets to you, and for you to be able to use them. We haven't found the sweet spot in the ticket transferability process yet. I think as we look at trying to make concession ordering and in-game experience as
even better,
entertaining and efficient, even better, it's all going to be done through these machines.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great companies out there, but we haven't been able to thread that needle yet.
Well, I think your answer is even better, because as opposed to an example that's historic, it's the idea that in this time where we're all going, oh my gosh, is AI going to take all the jobs? Is there nothing? The answer is there's so much need to do things better and more efficient, and that's there. And we'll put your cell phone down below so anybody could call you. We're not going to do that.
With all of AI and technology, and we are huge investors into data analytics and to technology, it's relational, right? I think it's that relational connection for us to continue to build with the Red Raider Nation that's going to elevate us even higher than where we are today.
Well, it is. And thank you so much for coming to be a part of SmarterUmedia today. It's great to see the things you're doing. We will get you back so we can keep talking about all the things that are coming down the path. Truly, Kirby, Hocutt, thank you so much for coming on. Come back.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate you having me.